Right then, let's have a discussion, first of all, about what Jonathan Brash said there. He is going to be another Labour MP. There are over 40 of them who are threatening anyway, he says he's going to do it, to rebel on disability cuts. Joe?
I would say thank goodness. Thank goodness. It does need to be thought through, and, you know, the impact of it needs to be considered before it's rushed through. And that is one of the things that concerns me about Keir Starmer at the moment. He seems to feel that he's got limited time and he has to run around making all these changes as fast as he can. And with it is ensuing chaos. We need a little more organised thought. Obviously, Tony Blair, quite surprisingly, has said that net zero is not achievable. Lots of other people have said the same thing, but Keir's going straight ahead for it, and I find that really quite worrying.
Scarlett?
I think the government has done it the wrong way round. There is no question that that for people are trapped on disability. But what you don't do is you don't begin by saying let's save lots of money. You begin by saying let's get them back into work. Let's actually help them. And actually, Tony Blair in 1997, well, it was Harriet Harman when she was Secretary of State, got people back into it. They got single mothers, they got the young, they put money into getting people back into work, and then not only saved a lot of money, much more important is actually lots of people want to work. You get the young back into work, and actually they have a much more fulfilling life. A lot of people with disabilities want to be able to work.
Of course.
Right. But what you don't begin by saying we have to save money. You begin by saying let's get them back into work, and that's the way they should have done it.
There are 9 million people in this country of working age who do not work for lots of different reasons. Some of them legitimate, some of them could work, some of them can't. This is a major, major problem for the government, and I wonder, they keep talking about growth, Scarlett. I just wonder where that growth is going to come from. Maybe this trade deal with America this week, but I do wonder, are there jobs for these people? Are there ways in which people can be helpful to the economy even if they're not working full time? It's a much bigger issue simply than cutting benefits, although saving some money is something many people may want to do.
No, I mean, I completely agree with you. I mean, I'm very old-fashioned. I think working is good for people. Most jobs,
absolutely is.
Working is good for people, getting you out of the house, getting you doing something so that and actually earning money is good for people. So, but I think that people need help getting back into it. If you have been unemployed for a year, it is very difficult going back to work.
Well, there are lots of employers as well who are reluctant to bring people back into work as well if they have been unemployed.
Oh, precisely. So what I'm saying is we need to flip it, and we need to concentrate on helping getting people back into work, and that will save money.
Joe, what would you advise the government to do to get people back into work? How do you think they can solve this problem?
Well, first and foremost, finding an objective and level way of deciding whether somebody is fit to work or not. I actually appeared for a friend at a tribunal. She'd been refused PIP, and I thought this was outrageous because she was obviously not fit to work, and so I wanted to take that up with them, and I did, and she won her case. I'm
not surprised if you were involved, Joe, to be honest. I'd be calling you as a witness in that situation.
And also, not particularly today, but we were talking before that some of these people are receiving benefits because they have mental health issues. Now, obviously, that is something very much on a sliding scale. And if somebody is suffering something like social anxiety and claims they can't go outside the house, why are we not helping these people in a different way? Because some people who want to see a counsellor, for instance, are having to wait months and months and months, if not years, on the NHS. Well, surely, shouldn't you be looking to solve the problem and not just cast these people out, say, here, take some cash and go and sit at home?
I was talking to a young woman recently who wants to work, who wants to do work, but she's just caught up in the system. It's again in regard to mental health, waiting for proper treatment, waiting for proper counselling. She has genuine mental health issues, and she wants to work. She wants to go out to work, but she's told you're signed off at the moment, and there are just so many blockages in the system, aren't there?
Oh yeah, no, that's what the problem is. But you don't solve it by saying you're not really ill enough. We're going to cut it off. You solve it by, as you say. So I was on the board of a tiny little mental health charity called Open Door for the young. it took nearly a year for people to get seen. I mean, there were lots. These were people who were having problems getting to school. They couldn't leave the house. They had all sorts of anxieties. The other thing about mental health is the longer you leave it, the worse it gets.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you do need the counselling, and you need help. And getting back to work if you have a mental health problem again is tough. And as you say, employers are not that happy to have you, and so we need to do a lot of work there, and that's the work that we need to do.
Yeah. Joanna in Salisbury's been in touch, says, "Hi Cardi B, finally a Labour MP getting up and saying no to this dysfunctional government." On the trade deal as well, Mitch has been in touch and says, "We got the first deal because Trump knew Starmer would be a pushover. Starmer is a very bad negotiator." What do you think of this trade deal, Joe?
I have to say, I'm not great on economics and that sort of thing, but when it comes to Keir Starmer, I'm not going to be overly keen. I look at what Trump's doing, and I've kind of got a round of applause there. But Starmer, I'm afraid, as soon as he starts to talk, my skin starts to crawl.
We are told, Scarlett, that this is not legally binding, that a lot of the tariffs and a lot of the, what's the word I'm looking for, the capacity, the number of bits of equipment going backwards and forwards hasn't actually been nailed down yet. It's sort of what they call in government a sort of heads of agreement kind of agreement. It's not, we haven't got all the detail. Does that concern you?
Well, what's the point of having a legally binding agreement? I mean, when Trump was last president, he did NAFTA, which is the North American trade agreement, and he broke it as soon as he got back in. So I think it's really good to have an agreement. I think the agreement that we've got seems, I mean, it's far from comprehensive. It's not, as Trump says, the greatest agreement ever done. But what it does do is actually, it's really important for the car manufacturers that we get 100,000 cars over there with no tariff. It's really important for steel. So yes, we've got. I mean, the problem with dealing with Trump, I mean, it's like trying to catch fish in a river. I mean, you get it and then it's gone. He can do whatever he wants and will. And
in regard to all this, it's interesting. I was talking to someone last night who was saying that there is actually a leverage here that America wants to be seen to be doing these deals because that's good for Trump. We're 47 days, I think, into this 90-day period, and there aren't actually that many deals that have been done. For the UK, though, we've got this India trade deal, we've got the US trade deal, we've got an EU one coming up. Many people will say, well done, Keir Starmer. Are you one of them, Joe?
I'm not.
Well, why not?
Because all that I've read about it seems, as you were saying, that it's not actually been pinned down in detail. And until I see it happen, and I have to say, I feel the same about Trump. Until I see it happen, I'm just going to take it at face value and say, go on and prove it.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's as nailed down as it's possible to be. We know there's 100,000 cars going to be allowed in a year, which is about as many as we export to the States. Right, so that's fine. We know that while we say we're opening up our agriculture, we're not having hormone-injected beef, we're not having chlorinated chicken. So that's good. I mean, actually, it is. I mean, it's a very small deal, and your friend was absolutely right. Trump is desperate to say, "I am the greatest deal maker in history. Look at this," and we're the only people who've done it, and it's a tiny, tiny deal, but it might save Jaguar Land Rover, which is a good thing. I mean, it will save people's jobs. Well,
let's hope it does. And thank you to Michael, who says Jonathan and hundreds of other Labour MPs have seen the local election results. It's dawned on them that most of them won't be in Parliament after the next election, so making noises now about what is in reality their poll tax moment about the Winter Fuel Allowance thievery. They're going the same way as the Tories, down the pan. It's slowly dawning on them. They're making noise. Too late, says Mike in Lincoln. Jackie says, where are these jobs coming from? Unemployment up, 203,000 businesses folded since Labour in power. National insurance increases on employers, meaning people aren't hiring. Scarlett lives in Fantasyland, apparently. Leslie says only pre-2016 pensioners can claim pension credit, as post-2016 pensioners are above the threshold. Tim in Suffolk says, our jails are not prisons anymore. Let's take them back 100 years. Create a deterrent. Mr. Brash thinks this is terrible. What's he going to do about it? And Kelvin in Macclesfield says, morning Peter, Starmer's deals are bad deals, and the best way to describe them is this. He's like, they do stupid deals here in regard to this. And can I just mention this? If they force the sick and the disabled people to work, who is responsible for their safety? This is never mentioned. If anyone in the Department of Work and Pensions thinks you're fit for work, then put it in writing, saying they're fit to work and that they will accept full responsibility for anything that happens if you get injured or killed because of your condition. Not the employer or yourself, but their own name on it, sign it and date it. I've tried this. They said I was fit to work. They signed it. Office manager, they know it was wrong. That's why I got no name. It's wrong. I can see loads of claims against the Department of Work and Pensions, says Kelvin in Macclesfield. And we have a voice note on the benefits cut as well from B.
Good morning, Peter. 15 billion to pay for illegals crossing the channel with no documentation, yet cutting disability benefits. I have no words for this government. Have a great day.
B, thank you for your thoughts on that. We will talk more with the debate desk panel of Scarlett and Joe. We're going to talk about a migrant spared deportation because he's got tattoos, and bosses facing legal action, yes, really, a criminal legal action for mixing up recycling under net zero rules. Stay with us here on Talk and let us know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. Right then, you're running a small business, you have 10 people, you're trying to get everything right, you're trying to find the money for these national insurance contribution increases. Here's something else that the Labour government has for you. Businesses may face criminal charges if they mix up their recycling under net zero rules brought in by Labour. Criminal charges for mixing up your recycling. At workplaces in England with 10 or more employees, they must now separate their waste before it is collected or risk legal action. They also have to rinse items such as tins and bottles before putting them in the bin. The policy was introduced, says the Telegraph, despite mounting pressure on Starmer over his net zero push, which has been told risks making the party electorally toxic. Joe Robertson, as a Conservative MP, asked the government to clarify how the rules would work and claimed the new recycling regulations were an example of the nanny state. He said Labour's simpler recycling guidance is anything but simple. Their policy will just result in more red tape for small businesses, with even some potentially facing criminal charges, and will not help the environment in the slightest. I am all for recycling. I recycle everything. Joe Wheeler, you're bristling. You're about to burst. Tell us your thoughts on this.
I'm going to ask you one question. I'll ask both of you. So, you're feeling a bit peckish, it's tea time, you go down to the local shop, you buy a pizza, okay, in a cardboard box.
Yep.
When you take the pizza out, it's covered in cellophane, whatever you want to call it, and the cardboard tray. That outer cardboard box, which bin does it go in? The ordinary bin, the recycling bin, or the cardboard bin?
Well, it depends on how much. So if you've got a lot of grease, it goes in the ordinary.
No, because it's just a sleeve. Well, because the pizza inside
then it goes
is
in,
covered.
I mean, I put it in my recycle.
You're recycling?
I probably put it in the recycling.
Wrong, it goes in the black bin.
Okay.
Can't even go in the cardboard bin.
What black bin?
The black bin's the ordinary waste.
Sort of landfill one.
Yes.
Well, that's pretty annoying, isn't it?
Explain that to me. This is the point where I fell out with my bin men, and it takes a lot for me to fall out with somebody. And at that point, I was like, no, I got that badge of shame. You know that thing when they put on it says, no, you put a pizza box in here. You can't. I'm not taking your bin.
Okay.
We shall leave it for another 3.5 months, or however often they come.
I mean, businesses are under a lot of pressure, Scarlett, aren't they? They've got these national insurance increases, mixing up. I mean, honestly, criminal charges?
I think you're hyping it up madly. If you read the whole... If you read...
The very suggestion. You're calling me some sort of tabloid broadcaster?
Possibly. If you read the whole story, what it says is that if it starts happening... I mean, obviously, everybody does it by accident. I mean, Joe's just said... I mean, I'm sure that, even though, like you, I do recycle, I'm sure I sometimes put the wrong things in.
Yes.
But... that what they're saying is that first of all they'll go and talk to them, but if they're refusing to, if they're just doing it all, I mean, actually, in most businesses, you have different bins to put in. I mean, it's you go and work there, and
but also your employees. I mean, who is tracking down who puts what in the bin? I mean, there's one person in this office who shall remain nameless who, when they get a takeaway thing from our brilliant canteen, by the way, it's A, delicious, and B, subsidised. They get the knife and fork and they just put the knife and fork in the bin.
What, the metal ones?
Yes, the metal ones. Put the knife and fork in the bins, and that's what they do.
Well, yes, that's not about recycling. That's just wasting money. No wonder you lose it.
It's a crazy thing.
No, I think. I mean. Most councils are fairly lax, and they understand that there are questions. What we're talking about is if
persistent offenders,
but seriously persistent offenders, we're not going to do anything about it. We're just going to have one. I mean, it's really easy. You just put different bins there. People are
Is it that easy though? Because Joe's just given us and also, how do you monitor your employees?
You don't monitor. Everybody knows. So my bin people, they take my bins, and I have there's a recycling lorry and an ordinary lorry. I'm sure that things are wrong. They check. I mean, afterwards they don't come back and say, you obviously have terrible, but they don't come back and say, no, we're not going to take this because you're awful. Is it all goes, and then you have a recycling centre.
Actually, you see, I'm not that sure about that, because for the most part it's just me putting things in the bins, and I've got it wrong in the past. But then if my kids come home and they're throwing things away, I don't know about it.
Yep.
And the bin men have found stuff that's like halfway down the bin that they object to, and you're thinking,
they're very assiduous. They go through your rubbish.
It's made me quite nervous, actually. I've started like shredding all correspondence and that sort of thing, which I wouldn't usually bother to do before. But no, it makes me quite uncomfortable that they're finding stuff which is actually halfway down the bin.
I wonder how they have time to look through your rubbish.
Precisely.
3 miles to the next house.
It was a very interesting
But actually,
rubbish.
what I was saying to Joe in the break is what's really interesting about recycling is it was a leader of a Conservative council, I've forgotten which one, who explained to me that he was really in favour of recycling because it saved the council money, because landfill is expensive, recycling you make a bit of money on by recycling it. So actually, even if you're not in favour of net zero or whatever, actually, if you recycle properly, it saves your council money and it brings down council tax. That's what this guy said to me, and he was a Conservative.
I want to bring you a thought from Sean in Bridlington, who's been in touch to say, I'd buy hormone beef and chlorine washed chicken if it was cheap enough. I've eaten in the United States, so what's the problem? Joe, would you have hormone injected beef and chlorinated chicken?
I'd be horrified. No, I'd become vegetarian really very quickly. Why do we have to mess with food like this? Well,
I lived in America for about 1.5 years, and the one thing I could never stomach was milk. Milk tasted really weird because there had loads of hormones in it, and actually there was this sort of farmer's market, all sorts of hold hands and worship the rainbow people in Hessian, and they were selling organic milk, and I bought this huge litre of milk and stood in the street about 6 months and drank the entire litre of milk because I love milk, and American milk was horrible. Would you eat chlorinated chicken?
I don't eat meat, but I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. I mean, but also the British people don't want chlorinated chicken. I mean, you might have a few people, but quite a lot of people possibly who watch this, listen to this, but all the polling shows the British people do not want it, and the farmers really don't want it, because actually we have very high agricultural standards, very high, and it's really important that we keep them, and it's important that we keep them for our farmers, because actually otherwise it's going to be they're going to have to lower their standards. So I think it's really, really important that we do not allow hormone beef.
There was a very big backlash against Beauvais in the cows, wasn't there?
Oh,
which
yes,
seems to have gone very quiet. But certainly there was a lot of boycotting. I live in a very rural area, practically off-grid, and of course virtually everything there is very natural, because you buy locally, people grow locally, and we don't have the big supermarkets, and as a folk, they just don't seem to eat very much processed food, which is, as far as I'm concerned, a much better way to be.
Yes.
And the more we can promote that, the better.
Neil has been in touch and said, please tell your guest council tax will never go down irrespective of how much you recycle. Betty says, morning Peter, in Ireland the fines are ruthless and mixed recycled waste is only going to landfill, but we already comply with this law. Costs £1 million a year and every penny charged to the taxpayer. Diane in Durham says, oh no, she's not in Durham, she's in North West Leicester, and at the moment we have separate recycling bins. The council has now spent over £6 million to have one bin for all recycling. And Gary says, if Labour wanted to get people back into work, they shouldn't have made the changes they have made to the Labour laws. The young lady you met with mental health issues who said that she wants to get back into work now has virtually no chance of being employed by anybody, because the perception, if not the 100% reality of these these changes is that she can start work on Monday, go sick on Tuesday with mental health issues, and then the employer is stuck with her indefinitely. If you create that narrative, you're only harming the chances of businesses hiring. Very, very interesting thoughts there. Thank you for that. Let's talk to Jackie in Oldham. We're on the debate desk, Jackie, and we're with Joe Wheeler and Scarlett Maguire. So you're on with me and with them as well. Jackie's given me a ring on 0344 499 1000. You can too. What would you like to say, Jackie?
Good morning,
Good morning.
everybody. My husband is a waste, power and recycling consultant. He's an expert in this field, so I do know a lot about this. Recycling is absolutely futile. It is virtue signalling because it costs the councils more to recycle waste than it would do using energy for waste plants where you put your rubbish in and you get electricity, steam and electricity out at the other end. We're actually, by the time you've recycled, sorted, you've decontaminated it, you've bundled it together, you've got transport costs for it to go to the plant, it costs councils far, far more. And councils are now looking to build these incinerators instead of sending it off to landfill because of the landfill taxes. And it's an absolute nonsense. And you're talking about fining British citizens for getting the recycling wrong.
It should be said, it's businesses with people with more than 10 employees, but often you have small businesses. They're coping with all sorts of different things. As Scarlett correctly says, it would be persistent offenders who hadn't taken a warning. But I think there'll still be a level of worry about this, Jackie.
But we let Drax pump out the biggest amount of CO2.
Scarlett, what do you make of what Jackie has said?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that if you could have these, if you could burn it for electricity, it'd be fine. But I mean, that's not what's happening. I mean, what's happening is that, as she says, you're paying for landfill, and that's what most councils are having to do. So that's the only thing to do. I mean, otherwise you'd be putting it all into landfill. And also, where are we going to put it all? I mean. Landfill isn't a pretty place. I mean, you have to dig. We have to do something so that we stop being a throwaway society. I mean, that's the other thing. It's a much bigger thing.
Sometimes it's more about reducing waste than actually recycling it, Joe.
Well, absolutely. And the answer is, why is it down to the consumer to deal with that waste? Why don't we start in the beginning? I remember a time when we used to get our fruit and veg in paper bags. Yeah. So while we've got all this polythene and plastic that our stuff seems to come in at the moment, I was also going to say, you know how in places you go and there's a little notice telling you, where something came from or what its history was. Why can't we have that in the recycling centres? And they say all this glass is going to, it will be melted down, this and that will happen.
They do in Camden, actually. They do say things that they've done with the recycling.
Oh, well, that's very good. But I saw this story in the States where this woman became concerned about where her multiple bins were going, for their waste. So she dropped Apple tags into them. Must have more money than sense. But anyway,
those tags that the sort of
so you can track them on your
locator
phone.
tags.
Right.
Okay.
And then she found that all the bins were going to exactly the same place and no recycling was being done. Now that particular council defended itself, saying, "Well, we are going to. We just haven't got round to it yet. We're just kind of practicing, if you like." Now, believe that if you will, but some kind of transparency on how this stuff is bettering our world. I mean, please don't get me wrong. Just because I've fallen out with my bin men doesn't mean to say that I don't recycle. I do. I take my stuff to the tip because there's some lovely men there that I chat to.
Are there some lovely men there, too, are there?
They're friendly and helpful.
Are they? Okay,
right.
good.
Right. So you say to your husband, just off to the tip. Might be a few hours.
It's all coming out now. It's all coming out now. Jackie, on a more serious note, Jackie, what do you think the government will get a handle on this, or are they just penalising people?
It's absolutely stupidity, Peter, because recycling emits more CO2 because of the process that you have to do. Incineration, because of the Climate Change Act, are being shut down left, right and centre, and we're shipping all our waste off to places like Denmark for them to do it. Plastics to Thailand, which, are not environmentally friendly, and it's an absolute scam.
Jackie, really good points there. That's Jackie in Oldham there. Thank you for those. You want to join Jackie on the air? 0344 499 1000. Do give us a ring. Plenty of time for calls between now and 1 o'clock. John in Norwich says chlorine is used in the UK for some purposes, such as treating drinking water and washing bagged salads, which is deemed safe by regulators. However, the levels used for salads are typically higher than those for poultry in the United States. Frank says there's more chlorine in the UK drinking water than would be on chlorinated chicken. Right then, if you have any further thoughts on this, as I say, give me a ring. 0344 499 1000. Send me a voice note as well on the same number. On the benefits fraud aspect, I want to just take that voice note on that, if that's okay. This is from Perry on benefits fraud. This is what Perry has to say.
Morning, Pete. If they really want to cut back on benefits, what they should be doing, all these people that say they suffer from mental health issues, they can't go out, just look at some of their Facebook pages. It shows them out lakeside doing shopping, yet they're milking the system saying they can't go out because they suffer from mental health. It's crazy. It's all a con. Don't get me wrong, there are some people that do generally suffer, but a lot of people are milking it and I'm paying for it.
Judy has some thoughts on this as well. She sent us a voice note. As I say, just send this in 0344 499 1000. I'll go back to Scarlett and Joe in just a second, but I just want to hear what Judy has to say.
Hello, it's Judy from Altos, West Yorkshire. The problem with Benefits Britain is that the few have poisoned the well for the many. I've always said that we all know somebody who's never worked a day in their life. And what they need to do is look at them that's never ever worked and work on them first and go the younger end as well and see why they haven't got a job or aren't in training, and do it that way rather than cutting disability benefits. Thank you.
A couple more topics I want to talk about, but just a quick word on what Judy and Perry have said there, Joe.
Well, first of all, the social anxiety was something that I mentioned earlier, and I think it's very real for some people, particularly post-COVID, and I think it probably affects a certain age group within that. I'm not spitting on that age group, I'm simply saying, you know, there are people who really suffer such anxiety that they can't walk out of the door, but the answer is to help them, not to say stay at home and we'll pay for you to do that. I think that's very true, and it comes back to that being able to seek help when you've got mental problems.
Scarlett?
Yeah, going to the second caller, NEETs, which is not employment, education or training, that's what is a complete failure, and we've got lots and lots of young people who are there, and actually she's absolutely right, we need to get them into work, we need to get them into education, we need to get them into apprenticeships, and that's what we have to do so that they don't get into not working.
And I think half of that is actually getting them out of the house. Yeah. You know, whatever it is they're leaving the house for, that's what they became unused to over 3 years. And that's what needs to change.
Just want to go through 3 more stories. Let's see if we can do it in 6 minutes. The migrant spared deportation because he has tattoos. This is an Iraqi asylum seeker winning the right to stay in the UK after claiming he could not return to his home country because of his tattoos. The Kurdish man says he faced a violent reaction from his family as they felt his tattoos deviated from the principles of Islam. Scarlett, should we be having people in our country because of this?
Well, I mean, if you read the story, his father and brother threatened to kill him. So he was escaping death by coming here. He says if he goes back there, and he's got no ID papers at all because his father took them. So it is very dangerous for him to go back to Kurdistan. I mean, his life is in danger. It's not about having the odd tattoo. I mean, whether he was right to have a tattoo is a completely different matter. He has them, and you know, basically, they want to kill him. I mean, if he goes back, he will probably be killed.
Joe?
I have to be totally honest, I'm not entirely happy that somebody with that kind of attitude in their family is somebody we want here at all. Also, a tattoo is not something generally that you wake up and find happen by mistake. So at the point where he got that tattoo, he obviously knew the attitude of his family, his background, his religion, whatever you want to call it. To then come over here and say he can't go back because of a tattoo that he had done there in the first place, I think that's unreasonable.
Let's talk about the BBC now. Gary Lineker says he didn't have a great desire to renew his contract, or the BBC didn't have a great desire to renew his contract. I expect he did. He says that I think I'm a better presenter now than I've ever been. I know everything that can go wrong and everything that can go right, which is a good time to go. Is the right time to go when you've reached perfection in your job? I mean, will you miss Gary Lineker on our screens?
Oh, do you know something? I'm ruining the fact that I left behind the world's smallest violin this morning. No, I'm sorry, I won't. I'm not a great sports fan to start with. He seems to have been a very controversial character.
I expect we'll hear plenty more from him, Scarlett.
I'm sure that we will, and I think that we know that the BBC were very happy to let him go.
Yeah.
Even though, I mean, millions of people think he is a great presenter. I don't watch Match of the Day.
I think he's a good football presenter. What I'm less happy about is the fact that we pay his salary and he tells us his opinions and everything else when he's not meant to. Speaking of opinions, the BBC has been accused of failing to describe Hamas as a banned terror organisation in 9 out of 10 news reports. We know they don't routinely refer to them as terrorists, which I think is wrong, but other people would say they're impartial and they should have this. But actually, now there's been a survey and an analysis of BBC News Online finding that the broadcaster barely mentioned that the group is a proscribed organisation banned in the UK, despite saying it would do so after the 7th of October attacks on Israel. Joe?
I think I lose a little bit of respect for the BBC each and every day. For them not to say how things are. It seems like they try to avoid controversy, you know, all the way around. All I ever hear now are criticisms. You know, they've just had to apologise for the editorial policy on that interview with Harry.
Yeah.
And that
question
was,
time as
that
well
was really
in the last couple of days.
Yeah, I know,
yeah.
it's ridiculous. Either tell it like it is or don't bother telling us. You know, that's what journalism is. You're supposed to be reporting the facts, not putting your spin on it.
What I often hear them say is Hamas, which is a proscribed organisation in the UK, if you want the BBC to be completely impartial and straightforward, I mean, I always call Hamas terrorists because they are, and think the BBC should, but surely they should have some consistency on this, Scar.
Yeah, well, but also when you talk about settlers in Israel, do you talk about illegal settlements every time? I mean, there is both sides, and they don't talk about illegal settlements.
Well, people settling are not. I don't think they should, but at the same time, they're not nearly as bad as Hamas terrorists.
No, but it's illegal, right? They are illegal settlements. There's no question about that, and they don't say it. I mean, I think it's really, really difficult to get to cover what's happening. I mean, the BBC gets attacked. The BBC gets attacked from both sides very, very heavily.
But when you have, the Committee for Accuracy in Middle East Reporting and Analysis found that 145 online news articles between the 1st of January and April 30th this year, which referred to Hamas, only 12 of them, 8.2%, explicitly stated it was a prescribed terrorist organisation. Surely you just have a consistency in how you refer to them.
And I think Samir Shah, who's the chair, said that that's what should happen.
Yeah, indeed. He is the chairman of the BBC. Big interview with Rod Little last week, and Mike Graham spoke to Rod after that. Thank you both very much. That's Scarlett Maguire, who is a political commentator, former Labour advisor, Joe Wheeler, meteorologist, saviour of people's nosebleeds, and political commentator herself. So Joe, thank you very much, and Scarlett as well.